The moment my Omega wife disappeared from our bonding ceremony, every alpha in the hall looked at me with pity. Some whispered that she had rejected me. Others claimed she had found a stronger alpha. None of them noticed what I noticed. Her scent had not faded. It had been stolen. My name is Kaelra Ashthorne. I am 24 years old, alpha heir of the Silver Fang Kingdom. Strength ruled our world. Every alpha dreamed of finding the one Omega whose scent could calm their beast forever. I believed I had. Lyra Vale was 22, gentle, intelligent, and far stronger than anyone realized. She carried herself with quiet confidence that made even the proudest nobles lower their voices. The first time we met, she looked directly into my eyes instead of bowing. That was the moment I knew. Tonight was supposed to bind our souls forever. The grand hall shimmered beneath thousands of crystal lights. Musicians filled the air with soft melodies while noble families from every kingdom watched us exchange vows. The ancient moon priestess prepared the silver thread that would seal our bond. Lyra smiled at me. It was beautiful. It was heartbreaking, because now I realized she was saying goodbye. The priestess raised her hands. The silver thread floated between us. Just before it touched our wrists, every candle inside the palace went out. Darkness swallowed the hall. People screamed. The windows burst open. Cold wind rushed through the room carrying the scent of snow and strange flowers. When the lights returned only seconds later, Lyra was gone. No broken windows. No blood. No struggle. Only silence. The guards searched every room. The palace gates had never opened. No carriage left the castle. It was as if my wife had vanished into thin air. Hours passed. Everyone told me to accept reality. An Omega who truly loved her alpha would never leave. They pitied me. Some even suggested choosing another mate before rumors destroyed my reputation. I ignored every word. Instead, I walked back to the bonding platform, closed my eyes, and breathed. Most alphas relied on sight. I relied on scent. Under the perfume of flowers and frightened nobles, beneath polished marble and burning candles, one fragile trail remained. Lyra. Her scent was fading. Not naturally. Someone was trying to erase it. That frightened me more than her disappearance. Only ancient magic could hide an Omega from her bonded alpha before the bond was complete. Ancient magic had disappeared centuries ago. Or so everyone believed. The trail led through a hidden passage beneath the palace. Even my royal guards did not know it existed. Stone stairs descended deep underground where forgotten tunnels stretched beneath the kingdom. The air grew colder, the scent stronger, until I reached an iron door covered in symbols older than recorded history. It was already open. Inside lay a single silver ribbon. The ribbon had belonged to Lyra. I picked it up carefully. Fresh tears stained the fabric. She had been crying, but another scent clung to it. Not Alpha, not Omega. Something else. Something ancient. Something that made every instinct inside me scream to run. Then I noticed the message carved into the stone floor. 3 words. Do not follow. It was Lyra's handwriting. Everyone would have obeyed. I smiled instead. She knew me better than that. If she truly wanted me gone, she would never leave a trail. She wanted me to find her. She simply did not want me to understand why. I tucked the ribbon inside my coat. The scent drifted east, beyond the borders of Silver Fang, beyond the Crimson Empire, beyond the Frost Crown, across all 3 kingdoms. Whatever had taken my wife was powerful enough to cross every border without fear. Unfortunately for them, I had nothing left to lose. At sunrise, I abandoned my royal title, left behind my army, ignored my father's command to stay. This was no longer a prince searching for his missing bride. This was an alpha hunting the one who dared steal her Omega. And I would follow her scent until the world itself ran out of places to hide. The border guards tried to stop me before I reached the Eastern Pass. No one crossed into the Crimson Empire alone. Not anymore. The mountain roads had become graveyards during the past year. Merchants vanished without warning. Entire patrols disappeared between sunrise and sunset. The survivors returned with terrified eyes, refusing to explain what had hunted them through the fog. The captain stepped in front of my horse. "You are traveling alone, Alpha." "I am. You will not survive." "I am not trying to survive." He frowned. "I am trying to find someone." For a long moment he studied my face, then slowly moved aside. "There is only one road east. If you hear someone calling your name after sunset, keep walking. If you see lights in the forest, do not follow them." I nodded once and continued forward. By dusk the Silver Fang Kingdom had disappeared behind the mountains. Ahead stretched endless crimson forests, their leaves glowing like burning embers beneath the setting sun. Every breeze carried Lyra's scent. It was weaker now, but unmistakable. She had passed through here less than 2 days ago. Hope surged inside my chest. She was still alive. Then another smell reached me. Blood. Fresh blood. I urged my horse forward until the trees opened into a ruined merchant caravan. The wagons had been overturned. Boxes lay scattered across the road. Deep claw marks covered the wooden wheels. Bodies rested where they had fallen. None of them carried the scent of wolves. Whatever attacked them was not Alpha. One body still breathed. A young Omega woman, perhaps 20 years old, leaned against a broken wagon. Her shoulder was badly wounded, but her eyes remained sharp. She looked up as I approached. "You are too late." "I know. They took my sister." "Who?" She hesitated. "The Moon Collectors." The name meant nothing to me. "They only hunt gifted Omegas," she continued. "They arrive without warning, cover the sky in silver mist, then disappear before anyone can fight back." My heartbeat slowed. Gifted Omegas. Lyra had always hidden her abilities. She could sense emotions simply by touching another person's hand. She claimed it was nothing more than intuition. Perhaps it had never been intuition at all. The wounded Omega reached into her pocket and handed me a small crystal. "Take this." "What is it?" "A memory stone." The crystal glowed as it touched my palm. Suddenly the world around me vanished. I was no longer standing beside the road. I was inside the caravan, watching through someone else's eyes. Silver mist rolled across the ground. Figures wearing white cloaks emerged without making a sound. They moved like ghosts. One of them carried a chain made entirely from glowing moonlight. Then another figure stepped forward. My breath caught. It was Lyra. She was not chained. She was walking beside them willingly. The memory ended. The forest returned. The crystal shattered into dust. For several seconds I could not move. Had everyone been right? Had Lyra truly left me by choice? No. Something inside that vision was wrong. I replayed every moment in my mind. The answer appeared almost immediately. Her eyes. I knew Lyra better than anyone. Whenever she lied, her left hand curled slightly into a fist. Inside the memory, her hand never relaxed. She was pretending. She wanted whoever created that memory to believe she had gone willingly. The wounded Omega noticed my expression. "You saw it." "I saw a lie." She blinked. "You're certain?" I would recognize the truth in her eyes even if the entire world could not. For the first time since meeting her, the young woman smiled. "Then perhaps there is still hope." Before I could ask another question, the wind changed. Every bird in the forest suddenly fell silent. Even the leaves stopped moving. Danger. Instinct roared through every part of my body. A shadow crossed the moon. Then another. Figures dropped from the trees without making a sound. White cloaks. Silver masks. Exactly like the ones from the memory. There were 12 of them. Each carried a curved blade that reflected moonlight even beneath the forest canopy. The tallest one stepped forward. "You have followed the scent farther than expected, Alpha." My hand tightened around my sword. "Where is my wife?" Instead of answering, the stranger tilted their head. "She said you would come." Those words froze my blood. She also said, the masked figure continued quietly, that if you refused to turn back, every kingdom would soon drown in a war that began with your love. The stranger slowly raised a single silver feather. "I wonder, did she ever tell you what she truly is?" Every instinct inside me screamed that the answer to that question would change everything I believed about the woman I had married. The masked stranger did not attack. She simply waited. The 12 warriors surrounding me stood perfectly still, their silver blades pointed toward the ground. They moved with impossible discipline, like they were one mind sharing 12 bodies. I never took my eyes off the leader. "What is my wife?" I asked. A faint laugh escaped beneath the silver mask. "You do not even know the woman you married." "I know enough." "Do you?" The stranger lifted the silver feather. "Then tell me, Alpha. Why has every kingdom spent the last 500 years hunting one bloodline? Why were the oldest records burned? Why do the moon temples forbid speaking the true names of certain Omegas?" I had no answer. Those were stories children whispered around winter fires. Legends. Nothing more. The leader slowly removed her mask. She was a woman, perhaps 30 years old, with pale skin and silver eyes unlike anything I had ever seen. Thin glowing markings curved across her face like moonlight flowing over water. "My name is Saris," she said. "Commander of the Moon Collectors. You kidnapped my wife. I rescued her." Rage surged through me. My sword left its sheath. Steel flashed beneath the moon. In the same instant, all 12 warriors raised their weapons. Not one of them looked afraid. Saris sighed. "You truly are exactly as Lyra described. You know nothing about her." "I know she begged me to keep you alive." Those words struck harder than any blade. Saris reached into her cloak and produced a folded piece of white cloth. "My orders were to give you this only if you reached the Crimson Forest." She tossed it toward me. I caught it with my free hand. It was one of Lyra's handkerchiefs. Tiny silver flowers had been embroidered into the corner by her own hands during the weeks before our wedding. Inside was a letter. The handwriting belonged to her. "Kaelra, if you are reading this, then you ignored my warning." "Of course you did. That stubborn heart is one of the reasons I fell in love with you. I need you to believe one thing. I did not leave because I stopped loving you. I left because loving you means keeping you alive. Do not follow me beyond the Crimson Empire. If you continue, people will die. Maybe even you. Please let me carry this burden alone. For once. Trust me. Lyra." I read the letter twice. Then a third time. The words were gentle. They were loving. And they were completely impossible. Trust her? How could I trust someone who vanished without telling me the truth? How could I walk away knowing she was facing danger alone? I folded the letter carefully and placed it beside the silver ribbon inside my coat. Then I looked at Saris. "Take me to her." "No." I was not asking. "I know." She smiled sadly. That is exactly why she feared this moment. Before either of us could move, the ground trembled. Every horse screamed. Birds exploded into the sky. A deafening roar echoed through the mountains. Not animal. Not human. Something much older. Every moon collector instantly turned toward the eastern horizon. For the first time, fear appeared on Saris's face. "No," one of her warriors whispered. "They found us." The forest erupted. Ancient trees snapped apart as a massive creature burst through the darkness. Its body resembled a wolf, yet it stood taller than the surrounding pines. Black scales covered its shoulders instead of fur. 6 burning eyes scanned the clearing while silver chains wrapped around its neck, dragging broken pieces of enchanted stone behind it. The beast inhaled once. Its 6 eyes locked onto me, then onto the letter hidden inside my coat. It threw back its head and howled. The sound shook the mountains. Saris's expression hardened. "Protect the Alpha." Her warriors immediately formed a circle around me. I stared at her in disbelief. "You are defending me?" "We are defending what Lyra entrusted to you." The beast charged. The earth cracked beneath its weight. Moon collectors rushed forward, their silver blades leaving glowing arcs through the night. The battle exploded into chaos. I had fought skilled warriors before. I had never witnessed anything like this. Saris leaped high enough to land on the monster's back, driving both swords deep between its scales. The beast twisted violently. 3 moon collectors were thrown through the air. Another disappeared beneath a crushing paw. The smell of blood flooded the forest. I refused to stand behind them. Drawing my sword, I rushed toward the creature's exposed side. Its nearest eye turned toward me. For a brief second, I saw my own reflection. Then something impossible happened. The monster stopped attacking. It stared directly into my eyes. Not with hatred. With recognition. A deep voice echoed inside my mind. You carry the scent of the Moon Queen. Before I could understand those words, the creature let out one final roar. Then it turned away from everyone and fled into the darkness. Silence fell across the ruined forest. No one moved. Sarah slowly looked at me. Her face had become completely pale. You should not be alive, she whispered. I tightened my grip on my sword. What did it mean? She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, there was no doubt left in her voice. It knows who Lyra really is. And judging by the fear in Sarah's eyes, whatever Lyra had been hiding was far greater than the fate of 3 kingdoms. No one spoke for several minutes. The clearing had become a graveyard. Broken trees lay scattered across the ground. Moon collectors moved silently among the fallen, carrying the wounded away while covering the faces of those who would never rise again. Even the night seemed to mourn them. I could not stop hearing the creature's words. You carry the scent of the Moon Queen. The words echoed again and again inside my mind. Saris finally approached me. There was dried blood on her sleeve that was not her own. You deserve answers, she said quietly. I deserved them before my wedding. She lowered her eyes. I know. We walked away from the others until we reached the edge of a cliff overlooking the endless crimson forest. The moon reflected across distant rivers like streams of liquid silver. Saris rested one hand against an ancient stone pillar covered in faded carvings. Long before the 3 kingdoms existed, there was only one realm. Her fingers brushed the carvings. The Moon Realm. Symbols across the stone suddenly began to glow. Images appeared inside the light. Cities floating beneath giant moons. Women with silver eyes walking beside wolves larger than castles. Omegas whose scents covered entire valleys. The Moon Realm was ruled by one bloodline, Saris continued. Not because they were the strongest. Because every alpha, every omega, and every beta could feel peace simply by standing near them. I watched the glowing images in silence. They were called the Moon Queens. I frowned. Queens. Not rulers by marriage. Rulers by birth. Another image appeared. A woman wearing a white crown stood beneath a full moon. Thousands knelt before her. The Moon Queen could calm berserk alphas with a single touch. Heal dying land. Strengthen every bonded pair across the realm. Her scent was life itself. The beautiful vision shattered. Flames consumed the glowing city. Dark figures marched through burning streets. The kingdoms became afraid. Saris's voice grew colder. They believed no single bloodline should possess such power. So they destroyed them. They tried. The final image appeared. A young woman escaped into the mountains carrying a newborn child. The last queen disappeared. The kingdoms believed every descendant had been hunted to extinction. My heartbeat quickened. But they survived. Saris nodded. For centuries they hid among ordinary omegas. The answer formed before she spoke it. Lyra. Yes. The world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. Every memory returned. The way strangers instinctively trusted her. The strange calm I always felt whenever she held my hand. The impossible warmth surrounding her whenever moonlight touched her skin. None of it had been coincidence. My wife carried the blood of the last Moon Queen. She never wanted this, Saris whispered. She wanted a quiet life. So why reveal herself now? Saris looked toward the eastern sky. Because someone else discovered the truth first. A cold wind swept across the cliff. The Shadow Crown. I had heard that name only once before. A forgotten empire that supposedly vanished centuries ago. It still exists, Saris said before I could ask. They have waited generations for a Moon Queen to appear. What do they want? They believe drinking the blood of a Moon Queen grants eternal life. Silence settled between us. Then I understood. They did not kidnap Lyra. No. They are hunting her. Saris nodded. We reached her first. My hands curled into fists. If you were protecting her, why leave our wedding? Because the Shadow Crown had already entered your palace. My heart skipped. What? We discovered spies inside Silver Fang 2 days before the ceremony. If the bonding had been completed, Lyra's awakened scent would have spread across every kingdom. I stared at her. The Shadow Crown would have known exactly where she was. They would have slaughtered everyone inside your palace to reach her. The memories returned with painful clarity. The candles going out. The freezing wind. The perfect timing. None of it had been random. Lyra had sacrificed her own happiness to save every guest at our wedding. She had walked away knowing I would hate her, just to keep me alive. A painful weight settled inside my chest. I judged her. No. Saris shook her head gently. You loved her. There is a difference. Before I could answer, hurried footsteps echoed behind us. One of the moon collectors ran toward us, breathing heavily. Commander. Saris turned. What happened? The young warrior's face had gone completely white. Our eastern scouts have returned. And? They found the hidden sanctuary. Hope flashed across Saris's face. Is Lyra safe? The warrior's silence answered first. Then came the words that froze every drop of blood inside my body. The sanctuary is empty. Saris took one step backward. No. There are signs of battle. My heart pounded. And the queen. The scout lowered her head. She is gone. The night became deathly still. Then another sentence shattered what little hope remained. They left behind only one message. The scout unfolded a strip of black cloth stained with silver blood. Across it, written in crimson letters, were 8 terrifying words. The Moon Queen belongs to the Shadow Crown now. The words burned into my memory long after the scout lowered the blood-stained cloth. The Moon Queen belongs to the Shadow Crown now. For a heartbeat, the entire forest stood frozen. Then everything erupted into motion. Moon collectors rushed through the camp, gathering weapons, preparing horses, packing supplies with practiced speed. Orders echoed through the darkness as wounded warriors forced themselves back onto their feet. Saris never looked away from the message. They wanted us to find this. I stepped beside her. You think it is a trap? I know it is. She folded the cloth carefully. The Shadow Crown never announces a victory unless they expect someone to chase them. Good. She looked at me. Then they will not be disappointed. For the first time since we met, Saris almost smiled. You truly are impossible. 1 hour later, our company left the ruined sanctuary behind. We traveled east beneath a sky hidden by storm clouds. Rain began before midnight, washing blood from the forest floor and making Lyra's scent nearly impossible to follow. Normally, that would have ended the hunt. But I still carried her silver ribbon. Even soaked by rain, it held the faint warmth of her presence. Every few miles, I removed it from my coat and breathed deeply. Each time the scent pulled me farther east, toward the Black Mountains, the oldest range in all 3 kingdoms. No roads crossed those peaks. No kingdom claimed them. Children grew up hearing stories that the mountains themselves were alive. No one laughed at those stories anymore. Just before dawn, we reached an abandoned village resting at the foot of the mountains. Every house stood empty. Doors hung open. Meals still rested on wooden tables as though the families had vanished in the middle of dinner. Not a single body remained. Only silence. I entered the nearest home. A wooden doll lay on the floor beside a tiny bed. Someone had dropped it while running. The fireplace had gone cold only days earlier. Whatever happened here had happened recently. Outside, Saris knelt beside strange marks pressed into the mud. These are not wagon tracks. I joined her. The marks were enormous. Circular. Perfectly even. What made them? She answered without looking up. Chains. A chill crawled down my spine. Chains. Large enough to leave holes the size of barrels. Something unimaginably huge had been dragged through this village. One of the younger moon collectors called from the well. Commander. We hurried over. Inside the stone well, deep beneath the water, silver light shimmered. Saris closed her eyes. No. What is it? She whispered only one word. Memories. The moon collectors lowered enchanted lanterns into the well. The water began glowing brighter until images slowly appeared across its surface. It was another memory. Villagers gathered in the square. Children laughed. Music filled the air. Then the bells rang. Everyone looked toward the mountains. A wall of black mist rolled into the village. Creatures made entirely of living shadows emerged from the darkness. Behind them walked soldiers wearing black armor. Their banners carried a silver crown split down the center. The Shadow Crown. The villagers tried to flee. None escaped. The armored soldiers ignored everyone. Instead, they searched every house as though looking for something. Finally, their leader stopped before an old woman. She refused to kneel. The commander removed his helmet. His face appeared almost human, except for his eyes. They were completely black. He spoke calmly. "Where's the queen?" The old woman spat at his feet. His expression never changed. He simply raised one hand. The shadows swallowed the entire village. The memory ended. The glowing water became still once more. No one spoke. I stared into the darkness beneath the well. They were looking for Lyra. Saris nodded. They believed someone here was hiding her. But she was never here. No. I clenched my fists. They murdered an entire village for nothing. One of the older moon collectors looked toward the mountains. It will only become worse. I turned. What do you mean? She pointed upward. High above the clouds stood the remains of a fortress carved directly into the cliffs. Even from this distance it felt ancient. Forgotten. Watching us. That fortress, she whispered, was once the palace of the last Moon Queen. Every eye followed her hand. Broken towers pierced the clouds. Moonlight reflected from shattered windows despite the storm. It looked abandoned. Yet I could feel something there. Watching. Waiting. The silver ribbon inside my coat suddenly became warm. Not slightly. Painfully. I pulled it free. The fabric glowed with soft silver light. Then, for the first time since Lyra disappeared, I heard her voice. Not through memory. Not through magic. Clearly. As though she stood beside me. Kaelra. I spun around. No one was there. The voice came again. Soft. Weak. Filled with exhaustion. If you can hear me. A painful silence followed. Then one final sentence. Please do not come to the palace. The ribbon crumbled into glowing dust inside my hands. Every moon collector stared at me. Saris's face lost all color. She reached across the bond. What does that mean? It means she is alive. Hope surged through my chest. Then Saris finished speaking. It also means she is close enough to death that the bond is awakening without the ceremony. The mountains rumbled. A deep horn echoed from somewhere high above the cliffs. One. Then another. Then dozens more answered across the peaks. Saris slowly drew both swords. Her voice became barely more than a whisper. They know we are here. High above us. The gates of the ancient moon palace began to open. The ancient gates groaned as they slowly opened. The sound echoed across the mountains like thunder rolling through the clouds. Every stone beneath our feet trembled. Loose rocks tumbled down the cliffs, disappearing into the endless mist below. No one moved. Every moon collector stared toward the palace carved into the mountain. The fortress looked less like something built by human hands and more like a piece of the mountain itself. White stone walls climbed toward the sky, their surfaces covered with silver vines that continued blooming despite centuries of abandonment. Towers reached through the clouds, while broken statues watched every path leading upward. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. Saris tightened her grip on her swords. The palace has been asleep for hundreds of years. It does not look asleep. No. Her silver eyes remained fixed on the opening gates. It looks like it has been waiting. The younger warriors exchanged nervous glances. One finally spoke. No Moon Queen has entered those halls since the fall. Saris answered without turning. Until now. The words settled heavily over the group. Every instinct inside me screamed that Lyra was somewhere beyond those gates. Alive. Waiting. I stepped toward the mountain path. Saris immediately blocked my way. The climb will kill anyone who loses control of their emotions. I am perfectly calm. She gave me a look that made it obvious she did not believe a single word. You are carrying fear, anger, hope, regret, guilt, and determination all at once. I can manage them. The palace will not. I frowned. What does that mean? She pointed toward the ancient staircase leading upward. The The Moon Palace was created by the first queen, and it judges every person who enters. One of the older moon collectors quietly continued the explanation. It does not care how strong you are. It cares who you are. If your heart is consumed by hatred, the palace becomes a prison. If your heart is consumed by greed, the palace becomes a maze. If you seek power, you will never find the throne. I looked back toward the towering fortress. And if someone enters seeking the person they love, no one answered. Saris slowly smiled. We have never seen anyone try. The climb began at sunrise. The staircase contained thousands of white stone steps winding through the cliffs. Ancient trees grew directly from the mountainside, their silver leaves shimmering beneath the morning light. For the first hour, no one spoke. The only sounds were boots striking stone and distant waterfalls crashing below. Then strange things began happening. I heard laughter. Lyra's laughter. It drifted through the trees ahead. I looked up. For a moment I saw her standing farther along the staircase, smiling exactly as she had on the day we first met. She wore the same blue dress. The same silver ribbon rested in her hair. My heart leaped. Lyra. I hurried forward. The figure disappeared. Only empty stone remained. Saris caught my arm before I could continue. Do not chase the memories. I saw her. No. She gently shook her head. The palace saw you. The climb continued. Soon every member of our group began seeing different visions. One warrior fell to her knees, crying as she reached toward someone only she could see. Another began laughing while speaking to parents who had died years ago. The palace was not attacking us. It was revealing the deepest corners of our hearts. I tried ignoring the visions. The palace refused to be ignored. Hours later, another memory appeared. This time it was not an illusion ahead of me. It surrounded me completely. I stood once again inside the palace ballroom on my bonding night. The music played softly. Guests smiled. Lyra stood across from me wearing her white ceremonial gown. She looked happier than I had ever seen her. She reached for my hand. I'm sorry. The words froze me. This was different. The other visions had been silent. This one spoke. I'm so sorry. She stepped closer. Tears filled her eyes. If I stay, her voice broke. They will kill you. I reached toward her. My fingers passed through empty air. She was only a memory. Or perhaps something more. I wanted one night. She smiled sadly. Just one ordinary night where I could only be your wife. The ballroom dissolved. The mountain returned. I stood frozen halfway up the staircase. Saris watched me carefully. What did you see? I answered honestly. She never wanted to leave. Saris closed her eyes. I know. Before anyone could continue climbing, a brilliant silver light burst from the palace above. Every cloud scattered. The mountain became silent. Then a woman began singing. The voice floated across the cliffs with impossible beauty. Every flower along the mountainside bloomed at once. Every wounded moon collector suddenly gasped as their injuries began healing. Even the cuts on my hands disappeared. The song lasted only a few seconds. When it ended, tears streamed down Saris's face. It is her. Hope exploded inside my chest. Lyra. Saris slowly nodded. She has awakened. Before relief could settle in, the joyful expression disappeared from Saris's face. No. She whispered the word as though realizing something terrible. That is impossible. What is? She looked directly into my eyes. The song of the Moon Queen can only awaken. She never finished the sentence. A blast of black light erupted from the highest tower. The beautiful song stopped instantly. A scream echoed across the mountains. I recognized that voice immediately. It belonged to Lyra. And it was filled with unbearable pain. Lyra's scream echoed across every peak. It did not fade. The sound rolled through the mountains again and again, carrying so much pain that every person on the staircase stopped breathing for a single terrifying moment. Then the palace answered. Thousands of silver lights burst from the ancient walls. The glowing vines climbing the towers awakened like living creatures, wrapping around broken stone as the entire fortress seemed to come alive after centuries of silence. The mountain itself was waking. Run, Sarah shouted. No one questioned the order. The moon collectors sprinted up the remaining staircase. Loose stones tumbled beneath our feet while ancient statues lining the path slowly turned their heads toward us. I blinked. The statues had not moved before. Now every one of them watched us climb. Their carved eyes glowed with soft silver light. One by one they stepped down from their pedestals. Stone cracked. Dust filled the air. Giant guardians, each nearly 3 times my height, blocked the staircase. They carried enormous spears carved from white crystal. None of them attacked. Instead, the first guardian struck the ground with its spear. The mountain became silent. A voice echoed from inside the statue. Who seeks the queen? Saris stepped forward first. I am Saris, commander of the moon collectors. The guardian remained motionless. You seek duty. Its glowing eyes dimmed. You may pass. The statue stepped aside. Another guardian lowered its spear before me. And you? I met its glowing gaze. I am Kaelra Ashthorne. What do you seek? Without hesitation, I answered. My wife. The guardian did not move. Its eyes grew brighter. You seek love. The mountain trembled. For one terrible second, I thought it would deny me. Instead, the giant statue slowly knelt. You may pass. Every moon collector stared in stunned silence. One whispered so quietly I almost missed it. No one has ever bowed. We continued climbing. The palace gates now stood fully open. Massive white doors rose higher than castle walls, covered with carvings showing generations of moon queens surrounded by wolves, birds, and ordinary people living together in peace. The moment I crossed the threshold, warmth surrounded me. Every fear disappeared. Every doubt became quiet. The palace smelled exactly like Lyra. Soft flowers. Fresh rain. Moonlight after winter snow. For the first time since our interrupted bonding ceremony, it felt like coming home. Then I noticed the blood. Silver blood stained the white marble floor. Drops led deeper into the palace. Fresh. Far too fresh. I followed them without thinking. Saris called after me. Kaelra, wait. I did not stop. The trail wound through endless halls decorated with ancient paintings. Every painting showed a moon queen beside the woman she loved. Not one queen stood alone. Some were bonded to alphas, some to omegas, some to betas. The palace made no distinction. Only love mattered. I slowed for just a moment. Lyra would have loved this place. She had always believed the old divisions between alpha, omega, and beta mattered less than the choices people made. Now I understood why. This had been her family's home. A sudden crash echoed somewhere ahead. Then came shouting. Not Lyra. Soldiers. I drew my sword and ran. The hallway opened into an enormous circular chamber beneath a glass ceiling. Moonlight poured inside. At the center stood an ancient silver throne. Around it lay dozens of fallen shadow-crowned soldiers. Some were unconscious. Others would never rise again. None of them appeared to have been killed by blades. It looked as though invisible force had thrown them across the room. Black armored warriors continued pouring through shattered doors. At their center stood a tall woman wearing dark silver armor trimmed with black crystal. A cracked crown rested upon her white hair. Unlike every other soldier, she carried no weapon. She did not need one. Darkness itself flowed around her hands. She smiled as I entered. So, her voice echoed through the chamber. The alpha finally arrived. My grip tightened. Where is Lyra? The woman's smile widened. Closer than you think. She slowly pointed upward. I followed her hand. High above the throne, suspended within a sphere of glowing silver light, floated Lyra. Her eyes were closed. Silver markings covered her skin. Streams of light flowed from her body into every wall of the palace. She looked peaceful, until I noticed the black chains wrapped around her wrists. Each chain stretched downward into the hands of the crowned woman. Every pulse of darkness tightened them further. Lyra. Her eyes opened. The moment she saw me, every trace of calm vanished. No. Her voice cracked. Kaelra. Leave. I took another step. I am getting you out. Tears filled her eyes. You cannot. The crowned woman laughed softly. She has been saying that since yesterday. She looked at me with unsettling curiosity. I expected the famous Alpha Prince to be larger. I expected the leader of the Shadow Crown to be smarter. A few moon collectors behind me tried not to smile. The woman's expression remained unchanged. I am Queen Nysera. She gave a graceful bow. The last ruler of the Shadow Crown. I have waited 400 years for this reunion. I frowned. You are 400 years old. I was. She looked toward Lyra. Your wife is about to solve that problem. The black chains suddenly glowed. Lyra cried out in pain. Silver light poured from her body into Nysera's hands. The ancient queen closed her eyes in satisfaction. You arrived at the perfect moment. Stay still, and you can watch history begin again. Nysera lifted one hand. The black chains wrapped around Lyra tightened once more. A cry escaped my wife before she bit her lip hard enough to draw silver blood. Even now she refused to let the Shadow Queen see her break. My control shattered. I charged. The distance between us vanished in seconds. My sword cut through the air with enough force to split stone. Nysera did not move. The darkness around her hand expanded like flowing water. My blade struck it. Instead of meeting flesh, it sank into a wall of living shadow. The impact threw me backward across the chamber. I slammed into a marble pillar. Cracks spread through the ancient stone. Pain exploded across my ribs, but I forced myself back to my feet. Nysera looked almost disappointed. So this is the alpha she chose. I expected more. I am just getting started. She smiled. I hope so. Behind me the moon collectors rushed into the chamber. Ceres led the charge, both silver swords flashing beneath the moonlight. Her warriors spread across the room with perfect coordination, forcing the Shadow Crown soldiers away from the throne. Steel collided with steel. The palace erupted into battle. I had never witnessed warriors fight like the moon collectors. Every movement flowed like a dance. Every strike covered another warrior's weakness. They fought not as individuals, but as one living body. Ceres reached Nysera first. Her twin blades crossed toward the queen's neck. Nysera caught both swords with her bare hands. Darkness swallowed the silver steel. Then she twisted. Both enchanted blades shattered into hundreds of glittering fragments. Ceres jumped backward before the broken metal could strike her face. For the first time since I met her, she looked truly shocked. Impossible. Nysera laughed softly. You still believe moon-forged steel can harm me? She raised one finger. A wave of black energy burst outward. Moon collectors were thrown across the chamber. Walls cracked. The glass ceiling trembled. Even the silver throne slid several feet across the marble floor. I barely managed to keep my footing. Above us, Lyra cried out again. The silver light surrounding her had begun to fade. The markings covering her arms were disappearing one by one. Nysera looked up with satisfaction. Excellent. The queen's power is finally becoming mine. I looked around desperately. There had to be a weakness. No one could possess power like this without paying a price. Then I noticed something strange. Every time Nysera absorbed another stream of silver light, the black crown resting upon her head cracked a little more. Tiny pieces fell onto the marble floor. She saw me looking. Her smile disappeared. Interesting. She had noticed. The crown mattered. I slowly backed away as though retreating. Nysera followed with calm confidence. You finally understand. I understand enough. She tilted her head. Then tell me. I pointed toward the crown. That is not giving you strength. It is keeping you alive. Silence filled the chamber. For the first time, Nysera's confidence faltered. Only for a heartbeat. Then it returned. You are observant. But observation changes nothing. Perhaps. But now I knew where to strike. Ceres noticed my eyes. She followed my gaze to the crown. Understanding flashed across her face. Without speaking a single word, we formed a plan. She attacked from the left. I rushed from the right. Moon collectors engaged every remaining Shadow Crown soldier, preventing anyone from interfering. Nysera raised both hands. Darkness surged toward us like a tidal wave. Ceres deliberately slowed. Nysera focused on finishing her. That was the opening. I pushed every ounce of alpha strength into my legs. The world blurred. 1 step. 2. 3. I slipped through the edge of the shadow wave and reached Nisra before she could turn completely. My sword rose. She smiled. You missed. She thought I was aiming for her heart. I never was. The blade struck the crown. A deafening crack echoed through the palace. The ancient crown split cleanly down the center. Black light exploded in every direction. Nisra screamed. Not in anger. In fear. The darkness surrounding her body became unstable. It twisted violently before collapsing inward. The chains binding Lyra loosened. Only slightly. But it was enough. Her eyes flew open. For the first time since entering the palace, our gazes met without anything between us. She whispered only one word. Kaelra. A brilliant silver light burst from her body. The palace answered. Every wall began glowing. Every carving awakened. The enormous throne behind Nisra transformed into pure moonlight. A gentle voice echoed through the chamber. Ancient. Kind. Powerful. The queen has chosen. The palace shook so violently that the ceiling above us shattered. Moonlight poured into the throne room like a river descending from the heavens. Everyone stopped fighting. Everyone looked upward. From the falling silver light, a magnificent wolf slowly emerged. Its fur shone like liquid moonlight. Its eyes carried the wisdom of countless centuries. It landed silently between Lyra and Nisra, the same creature that had recognized me in the Crimson Forest. Except now I understood. It had never been a monster. It had always been the guardian of the Moon Queen. The great wolf lowered its head before Lyra. Then it turned toward me. Its ancient voice echoed inside my mind once again. Alpha of the Queen. The final trial begins now. The guardian's words echoed through every corner of the palace. The final trial begins now. No one moved. Even the shadow-crowned soldiers lowered their weapons. Fear spread across their faces as they stared at the ancient wolf. Some quietly stepped backward. Others fell to their knees. Nisra was the only one who refused to retreat. Blood trickled from beneath her shattered crown. Her once flawless face now showed faint cracks as though centuries of stolen life were beginning to catch up with her. She glared at the guardian. You have no right to interfere. The great wolf slowly turned its head. I have every right. Its voice was calm, yet every word carried enough power to shake the palace walls. I swore my life to the Moon Queens before your kingdom learned to speak. Nisra's expression darkened. They abandoned this world. No. The guardian's silver eyes rested upon Lyra. They never stopped protecting it. The remaining black chain shattered. Lyra slowly descended from the sphere of silver light. The moment her feet touched the marble floor, the palace erupted in brilliant radiance. Flowers bloomed from cracks in the stone. Dead vines became green once more. The broken stained glass ceiling began repairing itself without a single hand touching it. The palace recognized its queen. I ran to Lyra. She stumbled into my arms before I reached her. She felt lighter than I remembered. Far too light. Her breathing was weak. Dark marks surrounded her wrists where the chains had held her. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. She simply buried her face against my shoulder. I am sorry. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. I ruined everything. I gently held her face. You saved everyone. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. I left you alone. You kept me alive. I lied to you. You carried the truth by yourself. She closed her eyes. I was afraid. I know. I thought you would hate me. I rested my forehead against hers. I crossed 3 kingdoms because I loved you. I never stopped. Her trembling finally eased. The bond had never been completed. Yet somehow, standing together beneath the moonlight, it already felt real. A slow clap echoed through the chamber. Nisra smiled. Touching. She lifted both hands. Darkness exploded from beneath the shattered marble. The entire palace trembled. Cracks spread across every wall. The beautiful silver light dimmed. The guardian immediately stepped between us and Nisra. You would destroy the palace. If I cannot rule it. Nisra laughed. No one will. The floor collapsed. Shadow creatures poured upward from endless darkness beneath the throne room. Hundreds, then thousands. Each one resembled twisted wolves formed entirely from living night. Their glowing eyes surrounded us from every direction. The moon collectors immediately formed a defensive circle around Lyra. Ceres picked up a fallen silver spear. There are too many. The guardian looked toward Lyra. There is another way. Lyra slowly shook her head. No. You know the price. I do. My heart tightened. What price? Neither of them answered. The guardian finally looked directly at me. Alpha. The Moon Queen can seal the shadow forever. Hope flashed through me. Then do it. The guardian's expression became unbearably gentle. She would survive. Relief flooded my chest. Then it disappeared as the guardian continued. But every memory of the woman she loves would disappear forever. The world became silent. I stared at Lyra. She could not meet my eyes. It was always supposed to end this way. She whispered the words so quietly I almost failed to hear them. The Moon Queens were never allowed to keep the people they loved. I stepped backward. No. It is the only way. No. She reached for my hand. If I forget you, you can still live. I tightened my grip around her fingers. I did not come this far to become a stranger. Tears flowed freely down her face. Please. I cannot watch you die. You are not. I would rather lose my memories than lose you. I looked toward the guardian. There has to be another choice. The ancient wolf remained silent. Silence itself became the answer. Nisra laughed louder than before. Beautiful. Even now, love remains your greatest weakness. The shadow beasts charged. Their howls shook the throne room. Moon collectors met them head-on. Steel flashed. Silver light collided with darkness. The final battle had begun. Lyra gently released my hand. She stepped toward the center of the chamber. Moonlight gathered around her feet. Her silver markings glowed brighter than ever before. She looked back one last time. The smile she gave me was the same one she wore on our wedding day. Peaceful. Full of love. Full of goodbye. She slowly raised both hands. The entire palace answered. Outside. Across the mountains. Every full moon flower bloomed at the exact same moment. The air filled with ancient power. The guardian bowed his head. The queen has made her choice. I looked at Lyra, then at the storm of shadows racing toward her. A single impossible thought entered my mind. If the palace judged hearts instead of strength, then perhaps love itself could change its rules. And I intended to prove it. The palace trembled as Lyra stepped into the center of the throne room. Moonlight gathered around her until she seemed to stand inside a living star. Every shadow beast stopped for a heartbeat, as though even darkness feared what was about to happen. I looked at the guardian. There has to be another way. The ancient wolf held my gaze. There is. Hope surged through me. But no alpha has ever survived it. I do not care. You will. The guardian took a slow step closer. The first Moon Queen never ruled alone. I frowned. What do you mean? The legends were changed. Its silver eyes shone brighter. The kingdoms erased half of the truth. The entire throne room fell silent. The Moon Queen was never the source of balance. She and her bonded mate were. I stared at the guardian. The bond was never meant to give one person power. It was meant to unite two souls. Lyra's eyes widened. No. The guardian nodded. Yes. The Shadow Crown destroyed every record because two hearts standing together were stronger than any throne. Nisra's face twisted with fury. Lies. The guardian turned toward her. You feared love more than power. You always have. Nisra screamed. Kill them. Thousands of shadow beasts rushed forward. The moon collectors fought with everything they had, but the tide of darkness refused to stop. Ceres was knocked to one knee. Another warrior fell beside her. The palace walls began cracking again. There was no more time. The guardian looked at me. The bond must be completed. Lyra shook her head desperately. It cannot. Our ceremony was interrupted. The silver thread was broken. The guardian smiled. The thread was broken. The promise was not. It lowered its head. Choose each other. Freely. without fear, without duty, only love. I turned toward Lyra. For a moment the battle disappeared. The screams faded. The palace vanished. Only she remained. The woman who smiled at strangers before herself. Who secretly left flowers outside lonely homes every winter. Who walked away from her own happiness to save mine. Who crossed into danger believing I deserved a future without her. I gently took both of her hands. You once asked me what I wanted our life to become. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. I remember. I answered that I wanted forever. I smiled. I was wrong. She looked at me in confusion. I do not need forever. I only need every tomorrow that we can earn together. She laughed through her tears. You always know how to ruin my dramatic speeches. I learned from the best. She rested her forehead against mine. I love you. I loved you before our wedding. I loved you while I searched every kingdom. I will love you even if the world forgets our names. I smiled. Then let us give the world something worth remembering. The moment those words left our lips, warm silver light surrounded us. Not from the palace. Not from the moon. From us. Invisible threads appeared around our wrists. The same silver thread that had vanished on our bonding night. This time nothing interrupted it. The thread wrapped gently around both our hands before dissolving into light. A pulse of energy burst through the palace. Every broken wall repaired itself. Every flower bloomed. Every shadow froze. The bond was complete. Nisra screamed in horror. No! Silver light spread across the floor like the tide. Every shadow beast it touched dissolved into harmless mist. The darkness surrounding Nisra fought back. It lasted only seconds. The united bond shone brighter than the shadow crown had ever imagined possible. The cracks covering Nisra's body spread across her arms. Then her face. Then her crown. She looked at Lyra with disbelief. It should have cost you everything. Lyra smiled gently. It did. I had to trust someone else with my life. Nisra's body began turning into black dust. She laughed one final time. Not with anger. With sadness. So that was the secret. Not power. Never power. Love. The wind carried her ashes into the night. The shadow crown disappeared with its queen. Silence returned. Slowly. Very slowly. Sunlight rose over the mountains. The first sunrise the Moon Palace had witnessed in centuries. The guardian looked toward us. My duty is complete. Its enormous body dissolved into countless silver lights that drifted into the sky like falling stars. The moon collectors knelt before Lyra. She immediately shook her head. No, I will not rule anyone. Saris smiled. That is exactly why you deserve to. Months later, the borders between the three kingdoms opened for the first time in generations. The Moon Palace became a place where every Alpha, Omega, and Beta could seek peace without fear. Old hatred slowly gave way to understanding. It was not easy. It never would be. But every journey begins with someone willing to take the first step. As for Lyra and me, we finally held the bonding ceremony that had been stolen from us. There were no nobles, no grand audience, only our closest friends, the moon collectors, wild flowers, morning sunlight, and promises spoken from the heart. Sometimes people ask how far I traveled to bring my wife home. They expect me to answer, 3 kingdoms, 3,000 miles, countless battles. They're all wrong. The greatest distance I crossed was the space between fear and trust. Because love is not proven by never letting go. Sometimes, love is proven by finding your way back. No matter how many kingdoms stand between two hearts.